What's up, guys? It's the mighty ZangFei500 here with another video, really. I'm not doing a review today, and I know I said I would do Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns, but that game's a pile of dog shit, and I really don't feel like doing it right now. Anyways, that being said, I've decided to do something a little bit different. I actually looked at my old YouTube videos, and I remember that somebody had sent me a private message asking me about a certain clip showing some old magazines that I had stacked around, and it was, it was quite a while. I completely forgot. And they asked me in that letter if I could actually show some of those in a video. You know, sure, why not? That would be actually pretty cool. I myself have gone back and looked at some of these old magazines and kind of like reminisced and read some of the letters and all this kind of stuff that people wrote in at the time. And I mean, these magazines are actually quite old. Some of them are from back in 98, 97. And this was back when Blockbuster was huge and game magazines reigned king on this kind of stuff. Nowadays, with the internet being what it is, gaming magazines have fallen off, and a lot of them have gone to digital distribution. The only one that I can really think of that's super popular is Game Informer. And when I say super popular, I mean it's pretty much the only one because it's owned by GameStop, and they kind of force it down your throat. But anyways, I'm getting off track, so let's take a look at some magazines. We got Expert Gamer. We have EGM, or Electronic Gaming Monthly, PSM, or PlayStation Magazine, and finally, Game Now, which technically this is still 3, but we'll get to that later. You know, it's always interesting reading these things, is just the technical stuff that people talk about, and you kind of compare it to today. It's just really cool, and that's what we're going to look into. So without further ado, let's take a look. So first up, we're going to be taking a look at Expert Gamer. And you can see this issue is actually from June of 1999. I have older ones, but they are buried somewhere and didn't really feel like getting it. And this particular issue is actually in really good condition compared to some of my other ones. You can see on the front here we have Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, which I thought was always called Pod Racer. Maybe that was a sequel. And it's also got some other games in it. Beetle Adventure Racing, Guys, Bloody Roar 2, MLB 2000, and Goemon. More than 2,000 tricks for over 200 games! That was back when tricks were really popular. You know, you go to Blockbuster and they have those strategy guide books and all that stuff. Anyways, you know, a magazine is old when you look at one of the advertisements and it's for Game Boy Color games. This one in particular is for a company called Vatical Entertainment. They made such hit games as Top Gear Pocket, Spy vs. Spy, Zebco Fishing, and Yar's Revenge. I never played any of those. I think the only one I actually know is Vigilante 8, and I never played the Game Boy Color one. I love the PlayStation version. Ugh, it's weird. And actually at the top it says it has a new Rumble feature. Yeah, it was actually one of the first games to use that feature, and the only other game I can think of was Pokemon Pinball. And it had a little battery that you had to install on the top of it. It was kind of interesting, but it was kind of crappy. So, one thing that was pretty interesting about these older magazines is you could actually order back issues. Something that you really won't find nowadays. It's just a lot of people don't keep the back issues, or it's just not really heard of. It's pretty cool, but this magazine's been out of business for a long time, and you pretty much will never get those again, unless you order them on eBay or something. Look here, we get an advertisement for the Dex Drive. This thing is a peculiarly interesting device, that's all I can say. It just allowed you to rip your N64 and PlayStation save drives, put them on your PC, and you could put them on the internet. You could put them on websites or email them to friends. Even the advertisement says, brag about high scores. Accept someone else's to challenge. This is before we had leaderboards and all that. That's how you did it, you know? And it even had some, like, ratings. Easily one of the coolest new ideas in PlayStation peripherals. Interact's Dex Drive is by far the most incredible peripheral we have ever seen for the N64. Wow, how times have changed. Here's something that really caught my interest. It's the Tilt Pack, a rumble and motion sensing pack for the Nintendo 64. That's right, you know, the N64 actually did motion sensing before the Wii. The Wii wasn't the first time that they have actually delved in this kind of stuff. Granted, it was done by Pelican, which actually got bought out by Nintendo much later on. But, I mean, still, that kind of is interesting to look at. it says down here, give your thumbs a rest and let Tilt-Pack's motion sensing technology control the game action. This thing never really caught on, and not a whole lot of games I know actually used it properly. And an advertisement shows them using Star Fox 64. I think that's what that is. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it has some other games. It's kind of hard to see how like F-Zero X could use it, but mainly it kind of sucked. And the motion sensing, like the rumble pack, would actually throw off the motion sensing. So, I mean, it was cool, but kind of crap. And here we have the Gamers Forum, where it's people post comments and other kinds of stuff, and it's actually still common nowadays in like every magazine. People are going to send in letters and they're going to read it and all that jazz. And it's actually a very similar setup that Game Informer has now. Well, they have letter of the month, they have people just saying stupid stuff, trash talk, and opinions from game developers and such things. One thing that's pretty cool is they have this one article that talks about Resident Evil Code Veronica, which is a sequel that takes 3 months after Resident Evil 2. So it usually gives me kind of a timeline. I don't really look into the timelines too much. The only one I really looked into was kind of like Resident Evil 3. And speaking of Resident Evil 3, there's a little hint or a little tidbit. It says evil rumors. There could be a new Resident Evil game released on the PlayStation this fall. According to VideoGames.com, reports on the internet are stating that Capcom is working on Resident Evil Nemesis. The game takes place 24 hours before Resident Evil 2. As of press time, Capcom has yet to comment on the reports. So, maybe that's official. Resident Evil 3 takes place 24 hours before Resident Evil 2. Huh. Well, that explains that. I always, argued with my friends. If you guys ever watched my walkthrough of Resident Evil 3, I could never come up with the actual timeline. So, 24 hours? I guess so. And just like Game Informer, you have a letter art where people send in their artwork and they rate them the best to, well, pretty much just the best to see how they are. This one down here is the winner. Looks like, I know that's, I know that's Soul Calibur, but why is he in it? Why is Nicolas Cage in this? I don't remember there being... What? Moving on. Here's some more interesting gadgets. Of course, everybody knows of the Game Shark Pro. This thing costs $50, and I believe this is the PlayStation one. You slide it in your memory card, or actually, no. It's not the ones that you put in the memory card. It's the ones that you slide on the back of the PlayStation, and it's just weird. I have these things. The only problem with that port on the back is it had to be snug in there, or a lot of times the PlayStation didn't recognize it. What else did that port ever use? I don't really know. And also down at the bottom we have the Explorer Professional Fire International. I don't know what this does. I don't know what it goes to. I think it's to the PlayStation. I want to say it is. I've never seen that thing in my entire life. Just saying. On the next page we have Guys, or whatever you want to call it. One of the crappiest PlayStation fighting games I've ever played in my time. My life. So this one, the cool thing about this advertisement here is it's talking about a tournament that they actually held in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. The advertisement says, fight your way towards winning a trip to Squaresoft headquarters in Tokyo, Japan by testing your skill in the revolutionary new fighting game from the makers of Final Fantasy VII. I don't know about revolutionary. That game was really crappy. But it had some, a decent prize. A grand prize was an all-expense-paid trip to Squaresoft headquarters in Tokyo, Japan, with a complete library of 1999 Squaresoft titles and the Brady's Game Strategy Guide. Official Guys tournament, leather jacket, and a free subscription to Ziff Davis Publications EGM OPM Expert Game. First runner-up was a complete library of the 1999 Squaresoft titles and a Brady Game Strategy Guides, along with that tournament leather jacket and free subscription. And then all finalists received that an Guys jersey and an all-expense-paid trip to Los Angeles for the finals weekend. That game sucks. It never went anywhere. Thank God it's dead. Then we get to one of the more bulky parts of this magazine, the cheats and tricks section. I loved reading these things as a kid. It was freaking awesome. Just open up the magazine, looking for like the newest game, looking for like Doom 64, Duke Nukem 64, just codes, you know, and just rummaging through and say, oh my God, I hope they have invincibility. I hope they have something cool. And a lot of times I was disappointed because they didn't have the game I wanted to. But the cool thing was I was really interested in Game Shark, and they actually had Game Shark codes on the side of the magazine. It was awesome, but a lot of times, again, they didn't really have the codes I wanted. It was always something really freaking lame. And then I looked at one of the pictures, and it was of Rampage 2 Universal Tour. That game pissed me off beyond belief. It was an addicting game, but my God, was it hard, and it just went on for freaking ever. The next part of the magazine we're going to go into is the strategy guide part. That's right, these magazines actually had strategy guides built into them. Not like Game Informer, which just reviews and previews. No, this thing actually had helpful stuff. It's like you really wanted these magazines because it was something to look at besides just going, yeah, this game's coming out. It's like you could actually research these games. This one in particular is Bloody Roar 2, and I actually played this game. I actually thought it was pretty fun, and I don't think I actually used this magazine for the moves and everything. I just used the in-game, but still, nonetheless, it was pretty cool and helpful that it actually had stuff that told you how to unlock the characters, how to do moves, and all that jazz. Super cool. There's an extra page on the back where you can actually go and buy imported video games. They actually advertise imported video games roller called the Boomerang 64. This thing is stupid and horrible. Why would you want to use this thing? I mean, look. He's the kid's got a reality vest for the N64. What does that thing do? Seriously, I don't even know what it does. Someone knows what the reality vest for the N64 did? Feel free to leave something in the comment. But actually, it's an advertisement for a hotline, a video game hotline. $1.49 a minute. That is outrageous. Why would you call a video game hotline? I mean, even back when it was popular when I was growing up, I didn't know anybody who called these things. Did anybody ever call those things? What a pile of dog shit. Here's a guide on Ridge Racer 4, and it shows some very interesting PlayStation 1 polygon rendered cars. I guess this was high tech at the time, but look at this thing. It's ridiculous. It's like Sandshrew always says. It looks like a pixelated chicken. At the end of the magazine, it actually has a next month feature where it actually shows you what they're going to be talking to you about, and what like little screenshots, and it was just actually pretty cool. I don't think, does Game Informer do that? Does Game Informer ever give you previews of what's coming out next month? Like, this is what's going to be in next month's issue. Look forward to it. I always love this last page because it just hyped me up. I can't wait for next month. I can't wait for the new magazine to come in. It was just pretty cool. Not only did they advertise their magazine, they also advertised Electronic Gaming Monthly and the official US PlayStation magazine. And it gave you a hint of what that magazine was going to have next month, so maybe you wanted that one too. But honestly, why did you need multiple gaming magazines? You really didn't. Anyways, guys, that's all the time I got for this week. Next week, we're going to be looking at PSM, which actually has some really cool concept art for Final Fantasy IX and some concept pictures of the PS2. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. This is Egg500 saying, hope you guys have a good one. Take care.